But this is my house, Mommy. The one I asked Mr. Springer for. It is, I know it is.
Welcome to The Pursuit of Home, coming to you from New York City. This is real people buying real estate and their unique journey to get there. We share the tips, tricks, and frameworks to help you navigate the bumps in the road that you won't see on reality TV or social media, and which no one has talked about until now. Welcome back to The Pursuit of Home. I'm Scott Harris, your host. Now, in this podcast, normally, I'm interviewing real people buying real estate to help you avoid the issues they've already gone through, or at least to uncover what the issues will be, because, sometimes you just can't avoid them. This is hard stuff. It's emotional stuff. It's psychological stuff. However, we've also heard from many of you who just want some fun. Now, it's not totally in my comfort zone to gossip or to speak badly of buyers or sellers or even real estate agents, even if that last group of people are so easy to pick on. But if we're going to have some fun, we have some questions that really help us and have a little fun. And I want to walk through this minefield together. So the approach I want to have here is that my answers not only should give you a little bit of enjoyment, but I want to help give you a sense of how we work and how you should look for an agent to work with as well. So here's the first question. How often do you pass on a listing because it has problems? Meaning, how often do I say no to a seller? No, thanks, I don't want to work with you. It seems like a weird question because can you imagine that a real estate agent ever says no to a listing? Well, yes, they do, for lots of reasons. Sometimes the apartment is just in awful condition. Once I walked into a property and I realized as I'm walking in that the seller was a hoarder. He was a lovely guy on the phone and he was lovely in person too, but he couldn't see past how bad it had gotten. Did I pass on the listing? I probably should have, because it took over a year to sell it. And these are the things you learn early on in a real estate career. But when did I pass? There was a seller who had a bird, and the bird she was letting the bird fly around during the meeting. First it was landing on my shoulder. Then it was landing on my head. I was so grossed out by the end that I cut the meeting short with them. Sort of like you would, when you have a date and it's not going well and you're like, I have something that just popped up and you run out of the door screaming. I mean, the thought of going in there all the time with this bird was way too much for me. Now, normally there are ways around the problems. And I think that's why you hire professionals to help you sell. You want to declutter and you want to paint and you want to do simple updates and maybe other bigger things. It's not these issues, though, that scare me away. It's the combination of three things. Number one, condition of the apartment. Number two, the pricing expectations. And then three, the seller attitude. So it's not that the property has problems, but maybe the seller is causing problems too. I don't know if that makes sense. When I've said no, it's because it's clear the seller has an agenda. And despite doing this for 2 decades, I don't think I'm going to be able to build enough trust to adjust the agenda and create an effective working relationship. Okay. Sometimes it's like this. A seller brought us in to market an apartment for her brother's estate. Her brother passed away. She had a price in her head that's 30% above where we think the market is. And if that's not enough, it was clear there just wasn't going to be a way to build a relationship between us. So we politely declined to participate. And maybe in 6 months or a year, we're going to get another call from her. We did the best we could to say, we don't think it's a good fit right now. Here's another question that a listener asked. Scott, tell me about your most difficult client and transaction. Now, I have to say that for me, it's kind of like moms after they've had a baby. Okay. I really focus on how happy the buyer is after the sale or after a seller after they've closed. But if you put a gun to my head and you said, what's the most challenging sale? It was actually just a few years ago. It was a high profile sale in a new building the deal started before COVID and closed about a year into COVID. The buyers I was representing were understandably worried what they were buying and whether the real estate market was going to implode. It's easy to look back now and say it was the perfect time to buy, especially while borrowing rates were still below 3% at the time. However, they first wanted to pull out and they weren't sure how to do it. It wasn't going to be easy. Okay. That was what happened at first. They pointed out all of these construction defects and they were deciding, are they going to use them as an excuse to get out of the deal or as a way to negotiate? I knew on some level they didn't want to get out of the deal. I could see it, but it took a lot of conversations with them and their lawyers to get the closing done. I was very proud of that. Now, it's not a dish. It's not juicy gossip. Sorry, but it was a very important thing. Now, On to the next question after the break.
The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
All right, next question. What's the most unusual property you've ever shown or sold? Now, some of the neatest properties I've shown in New York have been firehouses. They're everywhere. And many were built before fire trucks existed. I mean, fires were put out by dudes with water being pulled by horses. And the buildings in New York, the firehouses here are so beautiful. In fact, I remember when I was 21, we had my 21st birthday was in the area on the top of a firehouse. So they're everywhere. That was in the Philadelphia area. The top floors are unique. In New York, it's where they dried out the hoses and the other things you'd put out the fires. And then, of course, you have the fire poles. So when they're in good shape, I don't mean renovated, but just in good structural condition, firehouses are beautiful and special. And I had a client for many years who was especially drawn to properties, to buying firehouses, which they don't come available very often. He owned one in Harlem and he owned one in the East Village of New York. And we would bid on them when they came to market. We lost one bidding war once against Anderson Cooper in Greenwich Village. And we lost another one to a real estate group in Midtown. So he still has the two. We were never able to actually pull one off. But those are some of the fun things. All right, next question. Have you ever encountered any haunted houses or spooky situations on the job? Well, spooky situations, yes. One guy made a bid on a $40 million mansion that I represented. He said he was an African oil magnate. But in the end, it was one of those scams, which we didn't go for. But it was fun to kind of for a week to see how it was going to play out. But a really spooky situation happened on a very cold day. It was like February, and I was showing a property. It was a $25 million house I was showing for a colleague of mine. I get in there on a Sunday morning, which is important. It's Sunday, right? I'll tell you why. And I walked in, and as soon as I walked in the door, I hear a psh, I hear this noise, and I'm like, this is freaking me out. I didn't know what it was, and my imagination was running wild. It was like 10 a.m. on a Sunday. I didn't have, I don't know, maybe my coffee didn't click in yet or something. I thought it was a ghost. I was like, this is definitely a ghost. And then, of course, I was like, where's the sound coming from? And I got to the bottom of the house and a pipe had burst. It was below freezing, a pipe burst. And that noise was the water running. The water was very quickly filling the bottom of the house. And it was Sunday morning. It wasn't like you could just call a plumber. I'm freaking out. I don't know where to even turn off the water. It's not my house. It's not my listing. I'm helping a friend. What am I going to do? Well, I figured out how to reach enough people that we got the water turned off eventually. And I got a call later from the seller to thanking me so much. Scott, thank you. This only cost me $200,000 to fix, but it could have cost him $10 million to fix. So again, you have to put it all in perspective.
This podcast is supported by the More Network, powered by Brown Harris Stevens. Real estate touches every aspect of our lives, from design and architecture to investing and the economy. Now there's a way to get all your real estate information in one place. The More Network. With more than 20 podcast and webcast series, the Mastery of Real Estate Network is powered by Brown Harris Stevens, one of the country's most distinguished brokerages. Discover advice from notable entrepreneurs, compelling topics, and access to top global real estate experts. Subscribe to their YouTube and Apple podcast channels by visiting getmorenetwork.com.
Now, the haunted house question is different. I mean, I know I thought that other house was haunted. Of course, it wasn't. Now, I've heard about haunted houses from people, but I've never actually experienced one myself. I'm open to it. Come on, ghosts, if you're out there listening, feel free to show up during a showing. I would love to see you. And maybe it's because we do so many showings during the day. Maybe ghosts are not around during the day, or, because people die in their homes. It's maybe I'm just too friendly. They don't want to bother me. I don't know why I've not seen haunted houses, but I really would like to see one. Okay, one more question after the break. All right, last question. What's the weirdest request you've ever received from a client? Now, this is an easy one. As soon as I saw the question, I'm like, I know what the answer is. The night before a closing on a townhouse, I had a client who was excited to buy in a new development. It was a townhouse inside the new development, and he calls me. He realizes the night before he's going to close on the $7 million house that he is $350,000 short on closing costs. He didn't realize that there were closing costs in New York, even though we had sent him the list many, many times. His attorney had done the same. We double checked later because we were having a heart attack about it. And the weirdest request that he made was that he said, Scott, can you lend me the money? And I wasn't quite sure what to do at that moment. I was like, let me think about this for a second. No, I just didn't know what to do. It wasn't like I had $350,000 sitting around waiting for my clients to ask me to borrow it. What ended up happening, of course, and I'm sure you want to know the end of it, is that he negotiated a promissory note from the seller, which was like amazing. And it took a closing that was like from usually 2-hour closing to a 12-hour closing. And because I knew this was coming, I actually didn't go to the closing because I was like, the fireworks there are going to be absolutely insane and I don't need to be around for that. But that was definitely the weirdest request that I've ever had in real estate. And I'm hoping that it remains the weirdest question I've ever gotten. I guess I missed my chance to get into the loan sharking business, but I'm glad I didn't do it. Many thanks to Sophia Phillips for compiling all these questions for this latest Ask Me Anything episode. The Pursuit of Home is produced by Sophia Phillips and the team at the More Network at Brown Harris Stevens. If you like what you hear or see, subscribe to the podcast, follow us for future episodes, and share with your friends. Of course, check out the show notes to email us questions of your own. I look forward to another episode where we bring on another buyer in the middle of their pursuit of home. See you next time, and thanks for tuning in. Real estate touches every aspect of our lives, from design and architecture to investing and the economy. Now there's a way to get all your real estate information in one place, the More Network. With more than 20 webcast series and podcasts, the Mastery of Real Estate Network is powered by Brown Harris Stevens, one of the country's most distinguished brokerages. Discover advice from notable entrepreneurs, compelling topics, and access top global real estate experts. Learn more about and subscribe to our YouTube and Apple podcasts by visiting getmorenetwork.com.